As far as we know, that's the basis of what we've heard. There's still not a lot of data on this.
The first case in the U.S. of a potentially more contagious strain of coronavirus discovered here in Colorado.
I think the key thing is to not get comfortable or complacent.
Tonight, there are so many questions, so many unknowns, and we go straight to health leaders for answers.
Questions about the timeline of developing a COVID vaccine for our kids. Testing hasn't even started.
Kids' immune systems are really different than adults.
Tonight, why health experts say vaccine trials in kids will take longer and are much more difficult to conduct.
I mean, it's more challenging as an investigator.
And the changes to the Paycheck Protection Program, making sure small businesses get their fair share of cash this time around. Tonight, America's first known case of a more contagious coronavirus variant discovered right here in Colorado. Now, it was first found in the UK, but the Coloradan who contracted it never traveled, and tonight is in isolation in Elbert County.
We have all of the questions and concerns. Denver7 CB Cotton went right to health experts to learn more about this new strain of the virus.
On Tuesday, state public health officials confirmed a Coloradan has the country's first reported case of a new COVID-19 strain, variant B117.
How concerned should Coloradans be?
I think it's more important to just be aware that it's here. And I think the contagiousness factor is obviously something that we want to be aware of as well.
The variant responsible for a surge of UK cases and new orders from the CDC requiring those arriving in the U.S. from the UK to show proof of a negative COVID test. And now, Colorado public health officials say the variant was found in a man in his 20s with no travel history, currently isolated in Elbert County. So how did the strain get to Colorado? Infection prevention doctors at UC Health explained.
It's certainly possible that somebody traveled to Great Britain or to New York or to California. We actually don't know that it's not already in other parts of the United States or other parts of the world. I would say almost with certainty it is, because this is just what viruses do.
The Colorado State Laboratory confirmed the B117 variant, and the CDC was later notified. Dr. Michelle Barron says variants are created after the virus copies itself over and over.
If you had to write the same sentence over and over and over, not with a copy machine, but literally writing it out by hand, at some point when you're like writing it for the 100th time, you may have made a spelling error.
But the CDC says so far there's no evidence that this variant causes more severe illness. Some UK scientists, however, do believe it's more contagious. And some Colorado doctors say that's bad news for the healthcare system.
As we have more cases, we'll inevitably have more hospitalizations. So a more transmissible virus is certainly of concern.
The best way to fight against variant B117, doctors say continue mask wearing and social distancing. And they also say, yes, the new COVID-19 vaccine is still effective against this new strain.
The vaccine was deliberately chosen to target that area where we, in the lab and based on other scientific experiments, were able to show that it doesn't change frequently. So at this point, this should have no bearing on the efficacy of the vaccine whatsoever.
CB Cotton, Denver 7.
All right, good information there. We expect to hear more from the governor on this, 10 a.m. In the meantime, health experts say they are working to identify people who may have come into contact with that man in Elbert County. Just in the last 2 hours, we learned a Louisiana congressman-elect has died due to complications related to COVID. Luke Letlow was to be sworn in next month. He just won a runoff election. 10 days ago, admitted to the hospital, then transferred to a different hospital, admitted to the ICU. He was just 41 years old, and he leaves behind a wife and 2 young children.
President-elect Joe Biden is slamming the Trump administration, saying their plan to distribute vaccines has fallen far behind. Operation Warp Speed says they've developed a vaccine 5 times faster than any similar effort in history. President-elect Biden has a goal of making sure 100 million shots are administered by his 100th day in office. Now, that would require ramping up vaccination by 5 or 6 times the current pace to get to 1 million shots a day. It would also require Congress to approve additional funding. Today, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris received her COVID-19 vaccine. She and husband Doug Emhoff both received the Moderna vaccine. Here in Colorado, more than 73,000 doses of the vaccine have been administered. Some Denver first responders, including firefighters, received their doses today as well.
Experts say we are still months away from a COVID vaccine for our children. Doctors say it may already be too late to get that vaccine approved before the start of the new school year.
Tonight, we're taking a closer look at why vaccines for the young are becoming such a challenge.
We know COVID-19 hits older adults much harder than the young. Yet experts insist the only way we'll control the pandemic is to vaccinate children, 12% of the population. Problem is, drug makers haven't even started testing their candidates in kids under 12.
Kids' immune systems are really different than adults. As any pediatrician will tell you, that kids are not just small adults. Their immune systems behave really differently.
Dr. Kristen Ramers says testing is needed to find the right vaccine dose for kids and see if there are any unexpected side effects. But the logistics are tough. Vaccine makers have to separate their trials into several age groups because kids' immune systems change as they grow. That means more child volunteers are needed.
I mean, it's more challenging as an investigator myself for research to enroll a kid into a study because you have to get permission.
Because parents have to sign off, experts say it can take much longer to enroll enough kids for a study. Neither Pfizer nor Moderna have done any testing on kids under 12 and may not until mid-2021. As a result, Dr. Evan Anderson at the Emory School of Medicine told us by email, quote, "Our children under 12 years of age are almost certainly going into next school year without a vaccine option available for them." He says that could put school reopenings in jeopardy, impacting kids' mental health, and says a vaccine may not be ready for older kids in time unless there are more studies or the FDA makes a decision based on the limited data it already has.
Bar will probably be lower in terms of seeing very robust data, but I know people will be watching that data very closely to make sure that the safety issues also hold up for kids as they do for adults.
The American Academy of Pediatrics has been calling on vaccine makers to start including children in their clinical trials since September. Without kids vaccinated, the group says we won't reach herd immunity, writing, quote, "We know that children can be infected with COVID-19 and can transmit it to others." In a statement, Pfizer told us it is, quote, "working actively with regulators on a potential pediatric study plan." But the company did not provide details.
All right, some welcome news for a lot of people tonight. The latest round of stimulus payments have already started to go out. Paper checks will be mailed starting tomorrow for those who didn't have their bank accounts linked when they filed taxes. Now, keep in mind, Friday is a federal holiday. Banks will be closed Friday. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin says the entire payment dispersal process should take about 2 months to complete. And the federal government plans to be a little more careful this time around as it hands out money to struggling businesses through the Paycheck Protection Program. Now, we have told you stories about the businesses that only got a few $100s, while larger businesses in better shape got millions. The Small Business Association reports more than $250 billion went to larger than intended businesses. New provisions in this new COVID relief package attempt to get more money to the small businesses. For example, a business has to prove a reduction in revenue in 1 quarter of this year, ensuring hopefully that struggling businesses only get this money and get it first. There's also a provision that a business with more than 300 employees no longer qualifies for those forgivable loans. Another provision, the government has lowered the maximum loan amount to $2 million, down from $10 million. And there's also special pool money this time for companies with fewer than 10 employees.
The state is getting ready to roll out a new program to help struggling businesses. The Climber Loan Fund will offer $250 million in relief for small businesses. $50 million will come from the state through the sale of tax credits. The other $200 million will come from donors. Minority and women-owned or veteran-owned businesses will be given priority and can request as much as $500,000.
We know small businesses are really a big driver of our economy here in Colorado, so everything we can do to support them is really important.
The loan program should start rolling out next month. Businesses with between 5 and 100 employees will be able to apply for those loans.
Well, protesting COVID restrictions, the leader of Parker Republicans posted the names and addresses of top state public health leaders on his Facebook page and then advised people who see it, now do what they want to do with the information. He writes, "These are people who put thousands out of work and are killing businesses." And he goes on to say, quote, "The revolution is underway." Mark Hall is co-chair of the Parker Republicans group, and he's now apologizing. He says that was an inappropriate decision. In a statement to Denver7, he writes, "I apologize for that incredible lapse in judgment, and the information has been removed. People and small businesses right now are very passionate and concerned about what's happening with continued shutdowns, and the actions I took," he says, or in an attempt to express my frustration. The state health department called the post disheartening and disappointing, adding they'll do anything to protect staff working tirelessly to respond to this pandemic. Also, police are investigating as well.
A new free COVID testing site is coming to the Castle Rock Fairgrounds. It starts Saturday and is open daily from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
The city of Aspen has declared a local disaster emergency because of that natural gas system vandalism that left thousands without heat or hot water, and it could be days before service is fully restored.
Ooh, it's going to be a cold one tonight, way below zero in the mountains. Coming up, I'll let you know when temperatures get back close to 50 degrees.
The price starts far above with the manufacturer.
Tonight, we continue to take a deeper look at how prescription drugs get their prices.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Tonight, we're helping you navigate the cost of care, the small things you can be doing right now to save.